Ndala! So, in this episode of African Spirituality, let's talk about the devil and negative entities. So, this is a question that many of you have been sending to me, asking about my perspective about the devil. Is there a devil? Does Satan exist? Is there, a demon and what have you? What do I think about that? So, I'm going to give you from my African perspective and my system of belief. So from my African tradition, there is no such thing as a devil, as a supreme evil entity that's manipulating things around and making people do things and all of that. However, we are well versed in saying that there are positive spirits and negative spirits. Okay, don't be fooled. Like, not because don't have an entity that we're calling that we could assimilate to and translate into a devil in Christianity, that everything is just all angels and ha ha ha, light and love and all that. No, in African spirituality, we do recognize the duality of things. There are spirits that are going to be mischievous. There are spirits that are going to be tricksters and playing tricks on you. There are also spirits that are going to be, or entities that are going to be negative. Okay, so it is a clear, we are being taught that there are entities that are going to be negative, and negative in many different type of levels. Negative in the sense that they may not want, they may not share the same goal that you have, and it is possible that their objective is contrary to yours, and so that they may be influencing your life in ways to push you a certain way that will suit them better. For example, there may be entities that could manipulate you for you to keep doing rituals and to keep feeding them energy. And I think this is kind of the situation where triggered a lot of people to tell you to stay away from spirits. Spirits are negative and all of that, because you could end up in one of the situations where you are feeding constant all of your energy to this being without getting anything in return, or without this being or this entity assisting you in any sort of ways, just then manipulating you and you ending up being quote unquote a slave to them by feeding your energy to them. There are other entities that are just maleficent, meaning that their joy is going to be in making other people feel bad, making other people express sadness and anger and all of the different things, because those are the energies that they feed into. And so those entities it's not to be seen as something that you should be fearful about. It's just to recognize that they do exist, and just know that you have tools and all of the powers that you need in order for you to live in harmony with these forces. You don't have to be scared of them. You just have to know how to deal with them and how to manage them and refute them from your own projection perspective of world and around you. So that's kind of what I've had been taught from my own tradition perspective. This is what I grew up with, knowing that I just have to recognize that energies are different type of energies out there. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative, some of them are neutral, some of them are going to be trickster, some of them are going to be playful, and all of this different range and array, just like you have different colors on the rainbow. Okay, not one color is more threatening than another one. They just are, and it's just up to you to learn how to deal with the different colors and to deal with the different spectrums and different types of energy that are around. For example, when they tell you this place, there's this particular energy that's there at this particular time, don't do certain things to exalt that type of energy at night. Now, if you don't do that, then you are basically saying, I'm going to be able to face, or I don't mind facing whatever's going to come our way when this entity is going to come after you. It's not a matter of this entity being against you. It's just a matter of this entity having a particular way of doing things and aligning certain things. And when you infringe or clash with this entity in their own territory, that's going to be up to you to face whatever's going to come for you. And that's nothing to do with good and bad and evil and all the different things. It just has to do with the different systems that are in place in the space that we share with other entities. Like I said, the visible and the invisible world is just one, and we have to learn how to live together. And a lot of us human are kind of always a bit pushing to dominate everything and to see everything as ours, because we are in this particular dimension. But the way to see things is really that, when an entity that you see as negative is really because this entity does not share into your goal, does not share into your objective. It doesn't mean there's going to be friction between you and this entity, but it's definitely going to say that you will have to affirm wherever you want to direct it, because otherwise you will risk being manipulated. And that's with any entities. Like I said, there are people who are quote unquote slaves to any form of entity that they're feeling their energy to. So you don't have to be basically only a slave to a demon because you're feeling all of your energy to this demon without receiving anything in return, or because you're feeling all of your energy to so-called angels, and so much so that you neglect your own family, you neglect the love and affection you used to be giving to your children and your husband and all these different things, and your brothers and sisters or your community. So it's just about perspective and really knowing what people are talking about. So that's from the African's perspective. Now, when you're talking to me about a devil or demons and negative entities, and I know some of you are saying that in terms of the Wiccan perspective, where you say, we don't really believe in the devil, but I think it's kind of really, to me, kind of astonishing that that someone will say, no, I don't believe in the devil, but I do believe in all of the other demons that are listed in the Bible, with all the other demons that are enumerated in there. I don't believe in the devil, but I believe that there are ghosts and extraterrestrials that are trying to kill us, or interdimension, or entities that are going into dimensions, or they're after us, or negative entities and parasites that are trying to harm us, and all the different things. For me, it just doesn't make sense that if you will see that the angels have a chief, why wouldn't the demons have also someone that's their guide or telling them what to do? It's just something to factor in. And then maybe the notion of having one particular entity that you can blame everything onto, I think that has nothing to do with what people are saying, what is oftentimes being criticized about Christians, saying that instead of taking responsibility for the wrong that they've done, they will just blame the devil. I think that's one thing. That's, I think, a habit that people have developed over the years and what have you. But when I'm trying to grasp myself into that system of belief and why people need to believe in the devil, or the construction of an entity such as the devil, I think is not far-fetched. I think it is a way for them to represent something that's extremely negative to them, that's more negative than some of the demons that they've come across or that are in existence. So it's just a form of really high negativity. If you had a spectrum from a trickster to really purely evil, I guess the devil will be at the extremity. And I don't particularly subscribe to the idea of a devil, but I can subscribe to an idea of an evil entity that's on that range of the spectrum. The same way I could subscribe that there are, very benevolent entities who are there and that have a range of spectrum as well, from a pleasantful entity to a very purely beneficial entity. That I think it's reasonable. It makes sense that there will be a spectrum of entities that can do whatever they want to do, and entities that can go from benevolent to maleficent as well, because there are other entities with whom we are sharing a space in this world who also have free will, the jinns being one of them. And so in terms of that, again, it is not a matter of you hearing about the devil and being scared, because this is this is where we get into manipulation and instrumentation of certain concepts. If we can use the devil to make you scared of doing this, if you can use the devil to make you scared of doing A, B, or C, then it becomes an instrument of manipulation. You become then programmed into certain actions, certain way of thinking because of the existence of this being. While in fact, similar to what I've mentioned in terms of my African perspective, is that the fact that that there are different entities is nothing to create any fears within you. The only problem is that even though they're telling you there are all the different entities, they don't tell you how to deal with them. Even in the Bible, it does say something like, the devil cannot really do anything to you that you're not, agreeing to. That, when the new or older, whatever thing that's coming, the apocalypse is coming on, the people will accept the beast willingly. Okay, so somehow you shouldn't even be scared of the so-called unquote devil, because so long as you are directing your energy, knowing where your goals are, this entity cannot do anything to you. Now the problem comes when you believe that you don't have the power to face it. You believe that you don't have the power to do what you actually want to do, to emulate your purpose and to live your life in with the direction that you want it to take. Then you are basically giving away your power, and then all kind of other entities, whether it is a devil or some kind of demon, or some kind of just individual that's manipulating you, all of these other people and influences can have an impact on you that is going to be negative for you. So I wouldn't be wrapping myself around all of these different concepts, but what I would and what I stress in a lot of my videos is that you have to be conscious of your own energy. You have to be conscious of your own goals. It is so important for you to set standards and goals for yourself, because if you don't, then that means other people, other entities can step in and do that for you. And then you will have to live with the consequences of not wanting necessarily to make those choices for yourself, or the consequences of thinking that you cannot make those choices. And whether you call this entity or this being that are doing that, or these individuals that are doing that to you, whether you call them demoniac, negative, or what have you, doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What should matter to you is how to deal with them, no matter what their names, no matter what they consist of or what they are made of. I think for a long time I went into that. I like the aspect of researching and knowing what is this demon called and known for, but I've also done the extreme work of knowing how this entity acts, and how I can actually work with this entity, in the sense that this entity is not going to be taking advantage of me, or in the sense that if I don't want to work with this entity, how can I just shield myself so that it never come to my level of vibration or into my own reality or vicinity. But it is interesting, because if you go and you start searching for these things, anything that you focus your mind into is going to be searching for you, because that's just the way of how things are. And I have a couple of times today, so I'm going to be making another video about creators versus users, and how when you create, you actually, your creature is going to be looking for you. But simply, if you focus yourself and you start looking into demons and all different demonology and all these different things, don't be surprised that you start being more and more inclined of bringing that energy into your life, especially if you're not shielding yourself. And shielding yourself is just a matter of giving intention to what you want to do, focalizing energy, and using, whatever else protection that can reinforce that in your own mind, so that your mind is focused in terms of what kind of experience you want to have. So some people will say, you need to pray and different things. If that works for you, fine, do it. But if that doesn't work for you, you need to have another system in place before you venture out and start thinking all kind of different things, or learning about different things. So I don't think that the devil is something to be scared of. If it exists, good for that, because I think there is a movement of people saying that the devil doesn't exist, but they want to do banishing exes, and walk the left-hand path and do a lot of things that are purely negative. Negative from a certain perspective. I'm not talking about somebody using the law of karma or using the law of retribution in order to right a wrong that has been done to them. I'm talking about people just, getting a kick out of, doing something negative to somebody else, but yet saying that the devil does not exist, saying that negative entities do not exist. I find that ironic. And so when exchanges with other people on this particular topic, I find I don't do it quite often. This is probably this is the first video where I do this on this level, simply because you don't know why people are asking you that. The simple fact of talking about it is already resonating some things into your own reality. Not that it is negative or anything like that, but I think it is also important sometimes to explore that darker aspect, that negativity. And for a lot of you who ask me about extraterrestrials or the dimension, monsters and things like that, I'll say until you've gone into the darkness, until you've gone there and you've assessed everything that's laying in the darkness, and you've also assessed everything that's in the light, like the demons that are in the light. And I'm saying that because this is an area that has fascinated me since I was a child, and I wanted to learn what scared people, what are the entities that are laying and hiding in the dark, but also what are the entities that are laying and hiding in the light. You know, sometimes people think the devil is only hidden in the dark when he could be there in plain sight. And so, or negative entities can be there in plain sight in the light as well. And it's just important to just shed that skin of tears that has been molded into you while you were, that skin of fears, that has been molded into you while you were into these different religions, including Wicca, including, you know, whatever religion you are into, there are going to be some parameters, some rules for you to follow, some dogma for you to adhere to in order to be part of that religion. And that's just the way it is. Even if you join a specific priesthood about working with a specific deity, there's going to be some rules and some things that you're going to have to follow. And if you are in some of those paths, there may be some fears instigated into you, installed into you, saying that if you do break those whole rules, there are going to be consequences. Some people have mentioned that, you know, having to work with Papa Legba before getting access to other entities, and what happened when Papa Legba is no longer on your good side. What happened then? So in many of the different religion and priesthood systems, there are rules to obey by if you want to stick into that, and if you want to really practice the way they are telling you to practice, which is much different from my own perspective, as I mentioned before. But you have to take that in consideration, and you have to basically be doing a constant work to make sure those fears are not, you know, creeping into your subconscious, because that's when, if they do, then you're going to have a lot to deal with. And lastly, I'll say, if you do a lot of shadow works, if you go into your own darkness and see what's in there and clean up the mess sometimes that has been creeping up in there without, you know, your full attention or anything like that, you will see that your perspective on things will completely change. And this is why in some of the video I've said I've worked with different entities based on a mutual exchange of what I want and what this entity wants. So obviously, if it's an entity that does not want the same thing as I do, I'll just ship it away. And to me, that's a negative entity. An entity does not serve my own purpose, does not serve what I want, that's not there for my ultimate growth. We're not going to be getting that much along, and there's going to be even energical friction between the entity and myself. And that's just how I see it. I just see it as, okay, this entity has a goal or a purpose that's not aligned with mine. So I'll just say, you know, continue your way. And I think this is important for, especially if you're just starting in the craft or you're starting on your path, you have to understand that whatever you're going to get into, it has to be beneficial to you. Otherwise, what's the point of doing that? And you deserve to be in a system that's actually nourishing you, pushing you to do more, pushing you to explore more, to expand yourself, to really enjoy your time here. You shouldn't be in a system that's oppressing you all the time, that's making you feel awkward, that's pushing you to hide, that's pushing you to do things you don't want to do, or to believe things you don't want to believe, and all that stuff. Because all of what it does is diminish your self-love, is diminish the esteem that you have for your own self, it diminishes the belief that you have in your own powers. And in that sense, you're going to be basically serving someone else. So it's always important to retain your own center. And as I mentioned in other videos, whenever information comes to you, when you're being fed some information, you have to always ask, how this information benefiting me? In all of different cultures, you have this entity, whether it's the devil, the shaitan, and the similarity is that this entity cannot harm you unless you let it, unless you kind of believe that it can, and what if you kind of subscribe to whatever position or thing they're offering you. And so a lot of it is part of taking your own responsibility in doing that. In Islam, the shaitan is basically whispering negative things, negative ideas to you, and it's up to you to listen to it or not. And that's really the point to underline there, is that you have a power of decision, of discernment, and you have free will to know what you want to believe in, how you want to deal with different things. And I think the devil is nothing to be scared of. You could have a really nice, loving life, recognizing that there may be an entity that's pouring a lot of evil without being afraid of that entity, because you know where you stand and you know what is your core belief. So even though in my own tradition there's no such thing as a devil, I do recognize this energy because a lot of people, mainly Christians and others, are feeding into the existence of that entity. So whether you do believe in it personally or not, that energy is here on this planet, is here on this consciousness. And there's no point, I think, being afraid of that, or ignoring the fact that millions of people believe that there is a devil. I think it's much more conducive to just know, okay, fine, you believe that there's a devil. That devil cannot impact me, and I know how to deal with that energy if it ever comes across my own spheres or vibration. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing to be scared about. If you, this is why you need to have your tools, and the tools is just there for you as a reminder. You have actually the power, all the different tools, the crystals, the salt, the affirmation, and all different stuff. They're just there to focus your mind and just remind you that your power is within, and they amplify the power. They enable you to, exert some of the power, that you're able to work with them to also amplify that power. So you have all the things you need within and in your environment for you to strive here while you are here. This is not a time to be miserable. This is not a time for you to think that you are you came here to be oppressed or anything like that. This is more of an experience for you to realize all of the tools, all of the powers that you hold within you to be able to deal with any entities, whether it is a beneficial entity or a maleficent entity. Because as I've mentioned, there's many people, whether you are feeding all of energy to a being that is not giving you anything in return. It could be a demon or a negative entity, and it could also be an angel that people are praying to, as the example I gave before. So, and all of them, the person, whether the entity is seen as good or bad, is basically being drained from their energy. So the result is the same. Maybe it may feel, other people may feel better saying that they're giving all the energy to an angel, what have you, but the result for them the impact for them is going to be the same on this plain earth. They are still creating a lot of other negative things around them because they're deciding to focus all of their energy to this other being. So the impact of the relationship that we have with entities that are around us, energies that are around us, is really important. And sometimes that impact can be much more important than the fact that that entity is good or bad, evil or good, or beneficial, maleficent, because the impact is going to be what is going to matter the most, at the end of the day. And so I hope I answered some of your questions. I think it's not an easy route to grasp around, and even when you talk about different deities, if you take, for example, any kind of deities, there's always a dark side to them. I haven't seen yet a deity that's all love and light. There's always some other aspect that could be seen as destructive, that could be seen as supporting in growth, and that could be something that's negative to some other people. And the same way, you can find tradition where demons are not all bad. You have demons who are good, you have demons who are evil and what have you. So it all depends on what perspective you're taking. But if you feel like this entity is negative or not serving you, get rid of that. Get rid of it. There's no point working with something or working for something or sending your energy to something that's not serving you, no matter what the system is, and no matter what other people are feeling about that particular system or that particular entity or that particular, demon, angel, and what have you. I know plenty of people who had some really negative experience with the so-called angels. And I know people who had a lot of growth working with some of these so-called fallen demons or demons. So I have kind of an overall picture of both sides and of my own tradition, and that is helping me in terms of assessing and dealing with other people. And I hope that was useful in terms of you not being fed into having more fears, but just understanding how the world works. A rose has thorns. Does that make the rose evil? You go in a garden, there's a variety of flowers, and each flower serves a specific purpose, has a specific kind of color, has a specific kind of thing that they're going to be doing, has specific medicinal properties, has all different things that make that flower special. But the point is that flower is here. This flower is here to serve a certain purpose in this sphere, in this realm. And so every entity that's here is serving something, is doing something, but is here for a reason and has the right to be here. And it's just a matter of you knowing how to deal with them so that they don't disempower you, or that they don't prevent you from fulfilling your spirituality, or from fulfilling your religion if you're in a religion, or from fulfilling whatever other goal that you have for yourself while you're here. So thank you for listening, and I will see you in another episode of African Spirituality. Bye.